Why do some countries build massive wealth while others stay stuck in poverty? To understand the math behind global development, it helps to imagine the economy as a single small bakery. Our baker wants to grow her business. To do that, she has to make a choice. She can't consume everything she earns today. She has to put a portion of her current profits into savings so she can eventually buy a second oven. In economic terms, she is building physical capital. This diagram outlines a foundational concept called the Harrod-Domar model. The equation shown here tells us that an economy's growth rate relies entirely on two things: the rate at which people save their money and the amount of equipment required to produce her goods. This creates a severe problem for developing nations, known as the vicious circle of poverty. If a country is very poor, its citizens spend all their income just to survive. With no money to save, they cannot buy machines and factories needed to increase their income. They stay poor because they are poor. British economist Sir Roy Harrod helped build this framework in the late 1930s to explain how these variables interact over the long run. The math of this model reveals a harsh reality. Breaking out of poverty requires a massive initial push of domestic savings or foreign aid. You have to get the first machines running before the economy can pull its own weight. Let's say our baker gets that initial push. She saves aggressively and buys 10 new ovens. But quickly, she hits a wall. She only has 3 workers to operate them. This line graph plots the bakery's total output against the amount of equipment it owns. The line rises sharply at first, but then it flattens out completely. This happens because of diminishing returns. Adding more and more ovens to a fixed number of bakers eventually stops generating any extra growth. Right here, where the line flattens, the economy hits what is called the steady state. Growth stops. Any new investment going into the bakery is entirely eaten up just repairing and replacing the old ovens that break down. To break out of the steady state and push the line upward again, you need better technology. In this model, technology is an exogenous force, meaning it's treated like a lucky scientific breakthrough that comes from outside the bakery's daily operations. Robert Solow won a Nobel Prize for defining this specific relationship between machines, workers, and productivity. His work showed that while piling up machines gets a developing country off the ground, it leads to a dead end without the continuous arrival of new technology. But technology doesn't just arrive by chance. In the 1980s, economists began arguing that innovation is actually generated from deep inside the economy, driven by people looking for better ways to do business. Paul Romer led this shift in thinking, arguing that the true, limitless driver of economic growth is human knowledge. Knowledge works differently than physical goods because it is non-rival. If I eat a physical cookie, you cannot eat that same cookie. But if I write a recipe for a better cookie, that idea can be copied infinitely and used by 1,000 bakers at the exact same time without ever running out. Because ideas can be shared everywhere at once, investing in research and development and human education creates increasing returns. A single good idea can raise the growth rate of the entire system. Leading economies build specialized legal and financial systems designed to fund, protect, and endlessly generate these human ideas. We know how the bakery gets its ovens and how it gets its recipes, but where did it get the workers to operate the machines in the first place? In early stages of development, most people work in traditional agriculture. Often, there are so many hands working a small plot of land that some people could leave for the city without reducing the total harvest. This creates a massive pool of surplus labor. As these workers move from the fields into modern industry, the whole country's productivity shoots up. Eventually, the economy reaches the Lewis turning point. The surplus labor is fully absorbed, and factories have to start competing for workers, causing wages across the entire country to rise. The economist W. Arthur Lewis laid out this transition in 1954. Rapid national economic growth requires physically moving idle human potential out of zero productivity fields and into high-efficiency factories. Zooming out to the national level, governments face a strategic choice. Should they spread their limited money across all sectors simultaneously to buy from each other, or focus heavily on a few key leading industries? The first strategy is called balanced growth, a massive, coordinated push across the board. The second is unbalanced growth, proposed by Albert Hirschman. He argued for deliberately starving some sectors to fund heavy industry, creating shortages that naturally force entrepreneurs to innovate and fill the gaps. Swedish economist Gunnar Myrdal looked at these rapid industrialization strategies and pointed out a glaring flaw. This animated map illustrates Myrdal's backwash effect. A booming, modernized city acts like a vacuum. It sucks the smartest workers and the best investment capital out of the poor, rural regions, leaving the periphery worse off than before. He called this circular cumulative causation. In this cycle, initial advantages snowball, ensuring that without intervention, the gap between the booming center and the empty periphery only gets wider over time. Economic evolution requires a series of deliberate steps. Force savings to build physical capital, shift surplus labor into modern factories, and build systems rewarding new ideas. But you also have to actively manage the deep geographic inequalities that this progress inevitably creates.